Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
The spring is in the air, my friend. It's March, it's 60 degrees. Dude, I love spring, man. The flowers start coming back, the birds are chirping. It's warm, but it's not super hot. And people just feel happier. How about you?
Doing great, man.
Dude, you were in Florida.
Yeah, I got a little tan. Shoot, I was in like 80-degree weather.
Did it feel like spring down there, or did it feel like summer?
It felt like spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, felt like spring. Definitely warmer. We went kayaking.
On the ocean?
Out to the bay.
Oh, the bay, yeah.
Yeah, because so many houses there have, what are they called?
The causeways?
The canals, yeah, canals that lead into
crazy?
the bay.
Off their backyard.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that.
Just drop your boat in, boop, before you know it, you're out in the bay and then the ocean.
Man, that's good. How, so weather was good?
Yeah.
No
weather was
masks.
great. Way less masks. You know, when you get into like Tampa Bay, like big cities and stuff, it's pretty, everywhere you got to wear a mask. But we were in downtown Fort Myers, Florida, and there were restaurants and shops, no masks.
Yeah.
Like Courtney actually walked in one of the restaurants with her mask on, and they kind of like, what are you doing? Because none of the waiters, waitresses, none of them. Yeah, it's pretty open over there.
Huh. Did you go to Clearwater Beach?
Not to Clearwater Beach,
You didn't
but
get out there.
But we did go to Clearwater. We did look at one property over there, but didn't get out to the beach.
Oh, so nice. Fish tacos?
No fish tacos, but I did eat a lot of good seafood.
Yeah, dude, you got to go fish. When you go to Clearwater Beach, go out there and have some fish tacos. They're so good.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny because they're so good, but they're so bad for you to be in a bathing suit because they don't help your abs at all.
Yeah, right. I'll have to diet before then. But it was good, man. Happy to be back, and for the On Purpose community potentially maybe moving to Florida here soon. So we'll be expanding the community from Colorado to the southeastern part of the country.
Yeah, we're excited to continue to grow, and we're now past the 100 episode mark, episode 101 today. So we're continuing to move forward. We got some good ideas and some fun stuff coming forward, I think, to continue to grow the On Purpose community, which I'm excited about.
101, baby. It's big time.
Yeah, top 2% of podcasts all time make it over 100, and we're there. So, but we have no intention of slowing down either. So don't think of this as a time to sit back and rest. We're going to continue to progress and move forward, build communities, and really expand the impact.
Yep.
Which is what I'm excited for.
Yes, and the content as well. Higher quality content. We have some really high quality things going on with our Patreon group right now.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, some really high quality things that are going to enable you to live life with more passion and purpose.
There you go.
That's what we're about.
Yeah. What do we got for today, Mr. Ollie? Where are we headed with this?
Episode number 101, the purpose of continuous learning. So the Pew Research Center showed that just last year, 25% of Americans did not read a book in the last year. And that is concerning because there is so much valuable information in books, and not only books, but just knowledge in general. There's programs out there, podcasts, books, but not a lot of us are taking advantage of the opportunity to learn every day. So I think this is a very important episode for us to really go over what the purpose is of continuous learning, especially after we get out of school.
Have you always been a big reader?
No. Funny enough, it wasn't really until I got out of school that I really started reading a lot more.
I think that's interesting too, because I literally, my whole school time, I remember reading one book, The Call of the Wild by Jack London.
Yeah.
Because it was about the wolf. That was literally the only book. I remember like trying to teach other people how not to read their books and still do book reports. Like I'd be like, okay, here's my system. You read the first 2 chapters, pick a couple in the middle, and the last 2, and you'll get the gist of the story. And I got my way through school doing that. Like that was my little system. And it wasn't until much later in life that I was like, no, I need to read. Like I enjoy reading and learning, and I think that's quite honestly where we miss a lot of it is reading is a punishment. Mm-hmm. Learning is a punishment for a lot of people. Yeah. Instead of being fun, and that's one thing I watch with our public schools is how much stuff is just taught at people but not taught to people, right? Like you got to regurgitate these facts to pass this test, and then you move on to the next thing. Well, we weren't really focused on learning there. And so I think that's why as adults we sometimes reject learning, because it's never been individual for us. It's never been about us. It's been about the information. So we put our energy other places.
Yeah, and there's many different types of ways to learn as well, right? You have lots of different learning styles. Some people may learn visually, some orally, some verbally, some physically. Sometimes it needs to be more of a social interaction learning, shadowing a person, when most of our school systems stick to just a couple different ways. So I think that's what's exciting with what's going on with our education systems today. Like my girlfriend Courtney had the opportunity to teach a learning pod recently when schools were shut down here temporarily. But yeah, lots of education reform. But thankfully, we have the internet, we have libraries, we have so much information out there to where we can go and continuously learn with what we learn is the best ways for us to learn, right?
Yeah, so I would challenge that a little bit, because I agree with it. But if you're seeking learning, but you're only looking for things to confirm what you already believe to be true, you're not truly learning, right? You're just confirmation bias. I'm just looking to find more of what I already believe in. Where I challenge you is read some stuff that you don't necessarily either know, like you have no idea about, or that your first instinct is that you may not agree with it. Because then you're truly learning, because maybe you've been wrong. And one of the questions I hear, why do adults stop learning after school? I think a lot of adults quit learning because they don't want to admit they're wrong. Right? Like how many of us have opinions or ideas that we've had for years and years and years? We haven't tested them in many years, yet we hold on to them as truths because we've always believed in them.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't evolved. And it's okay to be wrong. Right? Like people are going to be wrong all the time. But you shouldn't be wrong sitting stagnant. If you're going to be wrong, like learn and be like, oh, okay, I was wrong on that. Like be proactive in adjusting things. So I've been fascinated lately reading a lot of Native American history books, but written by Native Americans. Just because I was taught a certain set of history, and as we've progressed through the whole COVID stuff, now I really I don't know if all that I taught was really even true anymore. So I've been reading the other, because I want to know what was their viewpoint of this. Battle of Little Bighorn, was it really a battle? You know what I mean? Like, because there's two sides, and like they've always said, history is always written by the winner. Well, I think as we get to be adults, it's important that we question what we've been taught, especially if it doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah, I love that. Challenging a firm belief is an excellent way to learn. Something that you truly believe is true, and then reading the opposition to that.
Yeah.
Like a great example would be even something ridiculous that you're like, oh, no way that's true. Like the flat earth concept, right? Maybe you challenge that of like, hey, everyone believes the earth is round, but let me read some of this, because ultimately, let's say your belief is true. If you read and you're thorough of the opposition, you're going to be that much more well-rounded in your firm belief. But then if you're challenged, that's when it really gets interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. That's a great point, that a lot of people don't want to learn more because they don't want to be wrong about their existing beliefs.
Yeah, we hold them too close. Like, experiences are different. Life is different. like we talked about in the other episodes, what you experienced at 18 and what you formulated your belief to be shouldn't be the same at 30, right? There should be growth in there.
Yeah.
But we got to seek it.
So what happened in your life, Jared, to where something shifted, something switched to where you actually started to seek learning and seek reading and you wanted to educate yourself more? What was it that happened that made you switch from looking at reading or learning as kind of a punishment to something that you wanted to do?
Well, I think for me, it's if I get stagnant, I'm bad for myself, right? Like, I'll be honest. If I'm not learning, if I'm not progressing, if I don't feel like I'm evolving, I have tendencies to do bad stuff to myself, right? Like whether it's bad habits, getting lazy. So I have to be learning. And, when I was younger, being a police officer, well, first, going in college, obviously you're learning. Then the military, there's a lot to learn. And then as a young police officer, there's a lot to learn. And then I hit a point where I felt like I had the police stuff down pretty well. I'd seen almost all the kinds of calls you could go on. So I started doing jiu-jitsu, right? So that's physical learning. And then I was like, okay, but I'm not doing anything from my mind. So then I started like, okay, I want to read books to help me become better. So I'm big in like nonfiction leadership, biographies. I don't read a lot of fiction. It's just not my preference. But studying people that were where I wanted to be and like looking for nuances. Okay, how did they get there? And is this what I'm capable of? Because, how much time do people sit and watch TV? And it doesn't improve you. It entertains you, but you're not learning anything. And I just didn't want to be status quo. I didn't want my best days to be from, when I was 22 to 29 and the rest of my life is downhill. I wanted to continue to progress. And so I started looking at reading more. But now I'm opposite of you. I don't do Audible books because I like the actual books. And it drives my wife nuts because I'll go buy a book. She's like, oh, my God, we bought another. Like, use your damn phone and just listen to the book. But it's just the way I like feeling it. And, so that was it for me. I just didn't want to plateau. And there's only so much working out you can do in a day, right? And there's only so much, like reading is just quiet time. And it's time to silence your mind and your focus. And I think it's helped me be a better coach, just a better person, especially seeking contrary beliefs. That just fascinates me. And then I want to go back and challenge, like, why was I taught this? Like, here's what they say happened. Here's what you told me happened. And the truth's probably in the middle.
Yeah.
I question things, dude. I've always been a questioner. Like, it drives my wife nuts. And it probably drove my mom nuts. But, like, if you tell me to do something, I ask you why, and you have no why, there is no way in hell I'm doing it. and that's kind of knowledge, right? Just like you said earlier, even if you don't agree with flat earth, but you study, why do they believe this? Now you can be stronger in your why. Well, here's why I believe what I believe, and here's what they say, but here's why I don't think it works. That why piece is important, and why only comes from knowledge and preparation. What about you? How did it shift for you?
Two pretty profound moments in my life. One of them I shared on the podcast when I was 5 years old. My father comes from a Muslim family. My mother comes from a Catholic family. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, my father told me, he's like, hey, your mom and your abuelita and your abuelito and your whole Catholic side of the family is going to hell, right? And at 5 years old, I was like, no way God would send all of these good people to hell. Like, so that I became a big questioner of religion from a very early age. What is God? Why does God do these things? Why are we here? Why would we die? So very questioning there. And then when it came to education and more like personal development, self-development stuff, it wasn't until I got to college that I realized, oh man, I don't have all my friends from elementary school. I don't have my communities. I don't have my networks. I'm coming in again at kind of this bottom tier level. Nobody knows me, but I want to be a leader. I want to be popular. I want to, be social and hang out with all the cool people and the pretty girls and all that stuff. And so I joined a fraternity and I realized I wanted to be a leader in the fraternity. So I became really I would say obsessed with how can I really influence all these people who I've never met. And I knew that I was, you know, a half Mexican, half Arab kid and at Texas Tech University, West Texas school. Like I was going to have to do extra work because I didn't come from an extremely wealthy family, all this stuff. I was going to have to prove everything. So I picked up what's today my favorite book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. And I literally was like, I need to make friends and I need to be able to influence a lot of people so I can be in the position where I want to be. And this was after high school, right? In high school, you don't read books like Dale Carnegie, right? It's all boring. But when I picked up that book, it was like magic. The principles in there, I was like, oh my God, it was almost too easy for me to start making friends and influence people. And I'll just share like the three basic principles or some of the basic principles, like don't criticize, condemn, or complain, right? So anytime anyone was talking shit or whatever, I refrain from that. Principle 2 is smile. I really was always smiling. And then one of the principles 3, become genuinely interested in other people and they're going to love you. So all these strangers will be, oh, what? Like, where are you from? Oh, you have that hobby and tell me more. And really becoming interested in people. And before I knew it, I was the president of my fraternity, you know, and just like people were like, this guy's awesome. And I really learned the fundamental techniques of handling people. And then that translated to other books. I was like, whoa, I can pick up a book to learn something that I want to do in the world. And then there are the tips and strategies to do it. And that started my hunger for books. So in college, I read books of like, you know, pick up books on like dating women and stuff. Like,
what's the peacock theory or something?
Yeah, they have peacock theory, like lots of stuff like that. You know, like I want to have all the pretty girls. You know, I want to be a leader. Books on working out. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, pumping iron, learning bodybuilding, like stuff that I was into as a young man. There was books on there.
But see, I think that's the key, and that's why. Going back to your initial question, why do so many adults stop learning? Because they've never been empowered in the learning process. They've never actually been individualized. Like think about like through high school, you don't read any book that's designed to benefit you.
Right.
You read it because it's part of a curriculum. Shakespeare, you know, all these classical books. Well, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but for the vast majority of us, like if you want me to read, give me something that you know I'm interested in. And then ask me, how does it apply to me?
Yes.
Right? That's the one thing that, like, it drives me nuts if I'm supposed to learn something, regurgitate facts, and you don't once ask me, how does this apply to you? And I think we did a huge disservice to all our kids that were going to online school for the last year with all this historic stuff going on. And, you know, my kids were still in high school, so I was watching their assignments a little bit. And they weren't writing papers on how does this decision affect your life? How does this affect your future? How do you feel about it? Was literally like, okay, well, keep reading Hamlet. Well, what the fuck does Hamlet ain't gonna help you get better right now? Like, you're living through history. Why are we not teaching these moments? Or why didn't we assign, like, hey, read this book about the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918 and tell me parallels. Show me parallels in your world. What could we learn from them and not, you know what I mean? Like, I think we missed teaching. Mm-hmm. So many people view reading or learning as just something I do for somebody else. And what we're saying is learning is for you. And it doesn't have to be reading. Learning is learning. Martial arts, new craft, dancing, piano, new computer, you know, whatever it is, learn stuff.
Right.
To continue to progress. And reality is, I think, hopefully something you learned in this time is knowledge is power. You know, and if you have knowledge and you can do multiple different things, you can find work.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're never obsolete with knowledge. And that's what I try to stress to the kids. If they're going to read, like, read, but then apply it to your life.
Exactly. And that's where it's most important, is when you can apply it. And that's when it becomes exciting, right? That's when the learning is like, ooh, you learn this and then you can go apply it and test it in the field and see if it works. You know, whether it's that sales book to where you're like, oh, I'm going to try this on my next sales call tomorrow. Or whether it's that pickup book and you're at the bar and you're like, oh, I'm going to go get the hottest girl's number in the bar, you know, if you're in college, whatever it is. Because that's really what got me started. Of in my younger years in college, of like seeing that I could apply this. Oh, this kid in the fraternity that's a dick to everyone, I'm going to go make him my friend. Watch this, you know? Or like this new bodybuilding program, learning about it, the diet. Okay, that's when, because in high school, for example, like bodybuilding is a great example. You learn about nutrition and fitness, and then you apply it, and the results are physically there. You can see them.
Yeah.
In high school, you don't really have that much knowledge. You eat whatever you want. You just work out. But once I got to college, it was actually like I could actually body build and apply those principles and see them work. And that's in every facet of life. Like you said, whether it's a book or a program, if it's knowledge that you can implement in your life and see results, that's when learning becomes really, really fun.
Absolutely, and it's when you have buy-in. And, that's quite honestly why you're seeing such a surge in homeschool lately is people want more physical learning. They want learning that applies to their lifestyle. You think about right now, you take kids from the ranch community, from the city community, Spanish-speaking kids, kids that are immigrating from Africa, and they all go to public school. And they're all taught the exact same stuff. Well, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Just in my house, Trey and Tay are completely different learners, completely different interests. So part of our job is to make learning fun and to empower learning and to show them like, hey, you can read books, man. It's going to help you be, you want to go live a different kind of lifestyle? Well, read books on how people have lived that lifestyle and learn from it. And I just, somewhere along the way, learning became something you had to do instead of you wanted to do. And I think that's why adults struggle with it. They got to have that fun piece in it. And I believe learning should be fun. I'll be honest, at my age, if I'm doing something, I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it very long.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to, they're not mutually exclusive. If you're learning, doesn't mean you can't have fun. You should be able to do both. So find those things.
Yeah. And I love our podcast, the On Purpose podcast, because I think what a lot of people are trying to learn today is one thing that we all have in common. That's that desire that we all want more happiness and less suffering, right? We have, in today's world, there's no other generation in society, no other civilization ever in the history of the world that has had more comfort than we do. The poorest people still have shelter, running water, clothes, electricity. Yeah. I mean, more comfort. We're the most comfortable society ever. Hands down. However, we cannot say that we're the most wellness, right? Mental health has been a huge topic, surging of people being depressed, people being anxious. I just read recently, it's more than a quarter of our children ages 12 to 18 are diagnosed with some sort of anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
And there's so much unwellness in the world, yet we have all the resources to be the most comfortable we can be.
But see, I agree. That's a lack of information, right? So think about this. Here, a personal example. Trey, when he was little, speech issues, developmental delayed speech onset or something like that. So he had to go a bunch of therapy. Oh, and he's ADHD. He's hyper. We call him a boy. I don't think he's hyper. I think he's a boy. So they want to put him on medicine. So what did my wife do? She went and found information opposite of medicine. Okay, yeah, just because you told me he needs to go on medicine, okay, I appreciate you, but that's your information. Let me see what other information is out there. Oh, if I clean up his diet and I take out processed foods and sugars and make sure he exercises, we can do the same. So Trey never went one day on medicine. We literally came home from that appointment. My wife did her research. We took our pantry and we wiped out anything that had red dye, yellow number 5, blue this. And we put him on a very strict, clean diet. Now you meet Trey at 20 years old and you would have no idea. But why is that? Because we took time to get information, and that's a huge thing. We took time to learn, right? Like, think about if we're unhappy in this world, for many people, you're unhappy because people tell you should be unhappy.
Yeah.
They should tell you, this group of people hate you. That group of people, don't go there, right? The city, right? You don't know. And that's one of the biggest things about learning for me is if I want to know. And I don't want to know what you tell me. Okay, well, where'd you learn that? Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll read some of the books you read, and then I want to read the books that are opposite of what you learned because I want to know what's in the middle, because the truth is almost always in the middle.
Yep.
Right? And that example of Trey, like, my wife did all that. Read the books, went online, started researching it, talked to other people. Now, If it didn't work, we always had that fallback information. But when you don't have information, then you have to take whatever anybody else tells you is the truth. What if their motives aren't pure? What if ADHD medicine wasn't really for trade, but it would have made a profit? You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever want to be caught in business deals or life decisions where I have to do what you asked me to do because I don't know any alternative.
And you never have to, because you can always go out and learn the alternative.
If you take the time. But we're lazy, right? Like, you know, you think about it, we have the most stuff we've ever had in our world. We're the richest country the world's ever seen. Yet we have so many unhappy people that we don't take time to find what makes us happy. So research some shit. Look at stuff. Join groups. You know what I mean? Like, we could go on and on, but learning is a big piece of this. If you tell me the world's ending and everybody hates me, but this, well, I can go find a book and read it and be like, nah, this is just a cycle we're going through.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh, okay. I mean, there's just so much information out there that you don't have to take what people tell you is the truth. Like, you need to find your truth.
Yeah, and learn through your personal experience, right? You can go get the most intelligent life experience guru in the world, and he can tell you, hey, this is the way to live a life for optimal happiness. But you don't really know until you try that yourself. You have to apply the knowledge that you learn. So I think getting opposing information is a critical piece to really learning a topic.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you guys did, of like, okay, this is what the doctors are saying, prescribing the medication. Now let's look at the opposite, right? What are the other alternatives? And that goes for any topic that you can go and learn about. It's very important to learn the opposing side.
Yeah. Well, and what's the issue we have right now is with social media, it's so easy to be fed information you already believe in and be steered even deeper into your beliefs because it's an algorithm. So you got to be even more mindful of, okay, I believe this, and all I see is everybody believes this. Well, no, not everybody believes that. You're just being fed that information. So you even have to be more mindful to go out and seek the opposite of what you believe. And here's a novel idea. Waive your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't believe it. Maybe this is what I was taught, but I want to read the other side. And like I said, I've been fascinated with the Native American history because I didn't necessarily believe what I was taught in our history books because I'm not dumb. Like, I know who wrote those books. So I want to read the other side and find that middle ground. You know, so what I'm doing with Trey right now is we bought he's reading Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So every day he has to read a certain, I don't set a limit. And then we sit and we discuss, what does that mean? Because The Art of War was written BC. It's old. And then what does it mean to him? Like, what does Sun Tzu mean by this? And then how does that apply to your life? Like, you know, one of the best quotes in there is, to know thy enemy, you must first know thyself. Right? And so, like, we talk about that. What does that mean? And not what does it mean for a book report, but what does that mean? To know thy enemy, you must first know thyself. Well, that's what we've been talking about on a podcast. You can't lead other people until you lead yourself. You can't help other people better until you're making yourself better. You know what I mean? So that to me is learning. That's fun. And now he'll read that, right? Because he's like, it applies to me. So when I'm out when this is happening, I need to know myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think we need more of that. I think people need to be able to identify how does learning apply to them. And it's okay if it's different for all of us.
Yep.
There's no standard answer. And I think that's one of the places we struggle with our formal learning system is we want everybody to have the same idea, same answer. Yeah. And that's not learning. Mm-hmm. That's regurgitation.
Yep. So Jared, how can we create systems for continuous learning? Let's say you're that entrepreneur that's working 16-hour days and you have a gym schedule and you just seems like you don't have time, or that single mom who's working 2 jobs and you know you're thinking to yourself, some of our community may be thinking to themselves like, I just don't have time to go out and learn. Like what would you say are ways, especially for our extremely busy community members, that we can create systems to where we're continuously learning?
How are you doing it? You're a busy dude. Your Audible books.
Yeah.
You listen to your podcast on 1.5.
Yeah.
So it cuts it down by a little bit of time, but you can still catch the content.
I'll tell you my life hack right here. The big life hack. I do not, first thing when I wake up in the morning, do not touch my phone until I've read 10 pages, and I do it while I'm pooping. So for some reason, it seems that men take longer to poop than women. I don't know why.
Hey, we'll have to read a book on that, scientific study of that.
Yeah, I don't know why, man. I'm like minimum 20 minutes. Courtney's less than 2 minutes,
Yeah,
you
because
know?
we enjoy it in there.
Yeah, like I like sit down. I don't look at my phone. It's almost a reward. And what I do now is I'll try in my 10 pages, at least 10 pages, I'll try and pick something like, a good idea and or a good page and share it. So I'm actively reading. I got this from 75 Hard from doing it, and now it's like I'm starting my day, at least I already read 10 pages.
Yeah.
I also like to invest every couple months into a program from a leader. I just finished a program called Inner Engineering by a guy, a teacher, leader named Sadhguru. Really awesome stuff. 7 days, 2 hours a day. But guess what? I had to sacrifice some things. So I told you that week, hey, I'm not going to be coming to morning practices.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't get as much training as I did. I took some less hours at the gym, but I beefed up my spirituality, and it took me on a different life path. What we were talking about off air, some different things that I'm doing with my business, it came from some principles that I learned in that program. So the reading every day, I got a system for that. I'm doing it while I'm pooping. You poop every day, right? That's one thing. On drives, the audio books, like you said, when I'm driving, sometimes instead of music, I'll listen to audiobooks, or while I'm working out, cardio audiobooks. And then I try and invest and commit to some sort of program. I'd probably say once a quarter. You know, just did Sadhguru. Now Courtney and I are looking at this wealth program with this guy named Dan Locke. I did the Millionaire Next Door program for like 12 weeks. So I love those programs. And every single program I do, I get something out of it that improves my life.
So you have to sacrifice.
Sometimes, I mean,
sacrifice something.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. Right? Everybody's busy. But everybody's busy is a different level.
Yeah.
So give up something to learn. Like if you watch 2 hours of TV a night,
exactly.
Trade that out for that could easily be a good long walk and some reading.
Yep.
Right? If whatever. There's just so much. Just replace something. Replace that time.
Yep.
Instead of watching the news before bed, read 10 pages of your book.
Yes, please.
There's no reason that we cannot be learning. And the reality is nobody else is going to teach you what you need to know. You know what you need to take an active interest in learning and continue to broaden your horizons. One of the biggest things I used to do when I was working as the school resource officer at Rocky Mountain High School is when we had students that were struggling academically, and parents would come in and they'd be super frustrated. And a lot of times they would blame the teachers. They would blame the staff. My kid's not doing this. And I would just ask them, what kind of learning are you modeling at home? And they'd be like, what do you mean? I go, well, I've heard you blame the math teacher for not teaching your child, and the English teacher's not teaching them how to read and write properly, and this one. But I got to ask you, like, they only have them 8 hours a day. You got them 16. What learning are you modeling at home? You reading? Are you doing math with him? Are you learning? Well, I'm busy. I go, well, you see what he's learning here? He's learning habits to be busy. So if I'm busy, I put off learning. So he thinks he's busy. So he's not learning. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And parents would be like, whoa. And I remember one time one of the administrators was like, you can't talk to parents like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh no, I think I can. I think somebody has to.
Yeah.
Right? So when I look, if my kids aren't modeling a behavior, maybe they haven't seen it in me. Mm-hmm. So the more I read, the more I share, hey, Trey, I read this, or I listened to this. Right. Maybe it sparks them to want to learn more.
Definitely. And learning is your responsibility, right? So here's one thing I got from the program, guys, that kind of blew my mind. Responsibility. That word, we have corrupted that word in our own way to make it more thinking of like your responsibility, like you're to blame if something doesn't happen. But what responsibility really is, at the root of the word, is your ability to respond to something. Yeah. So in this program, the teaching in one of the courses was that we have unlimited responsibility. We can choose to respond to anything in our world and how we respond to it. So you can point finger that it was the math teacher that didn't, right? Or you have the ability to respond in a different way that's going to serve your highest level. Blaming, pointing fingers, never, ever is always low. Is always going to result in low vibrational stuff. But if you take the ability to respond in a way to where you're taking responsibility in the way that we view the word of like ownership, then you're going to find a way to improve whatever that situation is. So something to keep in mind that's been really interesting for me is like, what abilities do I have to respond to this situation?
Yeah. No, I agree. And what do you think the best ways for people to learn are?
I think that's different for everyone.
100%.
I think you got to know. I really like hands-on stuff. I like to experience ways to learn. I like audio as well, but I can also read, and I think that you strengthen your abilities to learn by trying to learn in different ways. But know what your strengths are and try to double down on your strengths, whether you're an auditory learner, linguistic learner, kinesthetic learner. Try to mix them up. And you can take courses on learning.
Yeah.
Right? You can learn how to learn better. Jim Quick, I still need to take one of his, but he teaches like speed reading, and memory.
And that's the thing. You don't have to buy into a label. You know what I mean? Like, everybody learns different, and everybody's going to learn in different manners, different rates. So it should be individualized, right? And especially like if you're teaching kids or you're working with your children, like, don't try to make them all learn the same way. Allow them to learn in their own uniqueness, because then it becomes fun, and then they take ownership of it. And as adults, don't get lazy. I mean, that's to me what it really boils down to is we all have a little bit of time. Every day we can read. We can YouTube a new concept of something. I got a series of videos I'm watching on there that are very interesting about the different archetypes of men and the roles males are supposed to play or need to play to be well-rounded for society. So there's all kinds of information out there, and challenge yourself a little bit, especially in today's world where it seems like we are so divided. Like, if I believe this, I can't possibly believe that. Like, ask yourself, why do I believe this?
Yeah.
And if you're believing some shit because the media told you or because it was passed down from your parents to you and you have no idea why you believe it anymore, you might want to look at the other side. And that's a big thing for me. If somebody tells me to believe something, but I don't have experience on why I should believe that, I'm going to challenge it, and I want to research it. Like, everybody's big into fact-checking now. Well, do your own damn fact-checking.
Right.
Don't take somebody else's word, because even the fact-checkers have biases.
Yeah. There's been a lot of information coming out about the people who own the fact-checking companies. Go read a book on it. You be your fact-checker. Yeah. Don't Google fact-check. That's dumb.
Awesome. All right, team. Well, we appreciate you all being here. If you want to help us grow the podcast, please join us over on Patreon. You got early special access to episodes. We have meetups on there that are virtual right now. Lots of cool stuff, and we're excited to get to the next 100 episodes and see what kind of growth we have as a community and what kind of impact we make in the world.
Yeah, and real quick, our Patreon group, that's a place where continuous learning is taking place. We have exciting monthly virtual meetups to where we're working on some deep, purposeful workshops, things like building a life mission statement, identifying core values, things that will help propel that continuous learning. So just a reminder, you can find us on Patreon and really beef up that learning there as well.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.